How we doing? Welcome into Monday. I am Stephen Lewis. Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, TikTok at Stephen Lewis on Air. Did radio for the longest of times. Still do radio because I love it. There's something about talking to people. It's just fun. Plus, I get to be sarcastic and get paid for it. Also, made playlists and programmed radio stations, and pretty much that's what happened when I discovered it in college and never stopped. And now we venture into this podcast world with Life as We Know It, where I kind of pick things that are on my mind that day, hence the title. Lately, there's been a lot of TV series ending or kind of near its end or streaming or whatnot, so I've talked a lot about that, talked a lot about music. Today, we'll file this under It Was Good Until It Wasn't. I mean, things that are good until they weren't. There's a website called BuzzFeed, which is kind of, in the most part, if you're flipping through your feeds on socials or whatever, you come across what people call as clickbait. You click it, you read the article. Sometimes it's things you've heard 1,000 times. Sometimes maybe it's new. Sometimes you just clicked it and you're reading something that's not even remotely true, but you think it is, and you're cool with it. Either way, BuzzFeed kind of puts out a lot of quirky entertainment type things. Today, they listed the fact about people who refuse to like things once they become popular. Now, in the radio world, a lot of different formats, music formats, have this problem because once it gets to pop radio, which everybody has their favorite pop station, people all of a sudden start hating bands. They hate songs because pop radio is very repetitive, so it plays over and over again. So once a rock band, and a lot of times crosses over, they go through a bit of a hate spell with people because they're just burnt out on everything. So anyway, we all have those things we liked and they become popular and you don't like them anymore. Probably you have a TV show like that. You might have been one of the early people who watched The Walking Dead or Breaking Bad, and then it becomes popular and now you're like, I was there first kind of thing. There's a thread online that has people talking about things that were good, but then they went downhill as soon as they became mainstream. And you can kind of add your own take to this list, some of which is true. Garage sales, yard sales, flea markets. Now that kind of reselling vintage things is hot, the prices for people's junk has skyrocketed. I know our neighbor has been selling the same 15 things in his driveway for the last month and a half. Sometimes the whole concept of one person's trash is another person's treasure comes to mind, and you might find some really good stuff at said yard sale or rummage sale or flea market or whatever. Last time I went to a flea market was probably a few months ago, and it was kind of crazy because you see basically now it's turned into stuff that people have that they try to maximize and get the most out of that they possibly can. And I get that, but sometimes that stuff's just not worth it, and you end up paying more than if you would have just ordered something. I personally think Amazon is going to be the death of us all because, well, we buy crap that we don't need, and it's also made us extremely lazy. I have a firm belief that if you can't go to the grocery store to get your own toilet paper and paper towels or stuff of that nature, you need to sit down, stare at yourself in the mirror, and have a long conversation about where your life is going. But nonetheless, other things that they were good until they weren't. Food Network. I agree with this 100%. It used to be cool, and you could learn new recipes, new foods to try. Now it's filled with reality competitions and celebrity guest appearances, and you could say the same for some other TV channels as well. And I watch certain things we're at Guy's Grocery Games, but that kind of went south to me when Guy decided that his kids have to be in every episode because, you know what? Here's the rule. And to celebrities and people, just because you're good at something doesn't mean your kids are. It doesn't mean your kids should be on TV. In fact, in some cases, your kids are painfully bad at something that you're good at. So do the world a favor and shelter us from them, Guy Fieri. Anyway, Las Vegas. It's become way more expensive and even less classy. I would agree with that because there was a time where you could stay for dirt cheap in Vegas and eat for dirt cheap in Vegas because they wanted you to spend all your money in the casinos. And now, well, that's kind of changed a little bit. I don't know if that's because recovering from the pandemic, they're trying to recapture some of that magic that they had before where they were making money hand over fist. I don't know. voice acting, and I've been trying to do this for a while. I feel like just when I'm going to get lucky, it doesn't happen for me. It used to be professionals who did amazing work, and now every animated movie and audiobook has celebrity actors as the voices. I agree with this, because if you go back to like the cartoons you watched in the 90s, those people, I'll use Kevin Conroy as an example. Kevin Conroy was the voice of Batman. Granted, Kevin passed away last year, but even before that, you had to find some guest celebrity like your Jensen Ackles of the world to voice those characters. And it used to be where voice actors were kind of their own separate thing. They were good, but now they weren't. Etsy, found Etsy when it first came out. It used to be kind of filled with like a lot of talented people's stuff. Now it's just reselling a lot of stuff that you buy at Walmart and Amazon. The food truck thing was cool, but now there's way too many of them. They're not only trendy, they charge restaurant-style prices for what you get in a food truck, which has always bothered me. There used to be this event when I lived in Michigan that I hated, that my radio station was a part of every year. They charged you admission to get into a park that was normally free, and then you walked around, and all there was to do at this thing was eat ribs. Not only eat ribs, but the ribs there were more expensive than if you just went to whoever was representing their brand's restaurant and got them there. And it used to annoy the piss out of me that we had to be there, because why am I paying a cover charge to walk around a park that's normally free and pay more for ribs than I would get at just another establishment? Food trucks are kind of the same way. It used to be like a food truck was cool. Now, you know, there's a guy that lives by me that's got a fleet of them. There's like 4 or 5 in his driveway, and he just ships them out like Amazon trucks on the weekends and goes and does his thing. And good on him if he's making money for it, but definitely they've changed a little bit. Music is what I was kind of leading to the beginning. The stuff that goes viral on TikTok, it used to be TV commercials that ruined songs. You know, you saw your song on the TV commercial. Now people hate music that's overplayed on social media. I can understand that. Social media is, we'll get to that in a second. Let's just do it now. Facebook, downhill the minute your parents started to use it, and you might be right, regardless of whose fault it is. I think Twitter, Facebook, all of them have gone into now people just posting news comments and negativity. And I think it started as some way to connect with people that you haven't seen for a while, and kind of morphed into just everybody has an opinion about everything, and you're wrong if you don't share their opinion, and, you know, it's negative all the time, and people post their negativity, and it's kind of like, I feel like the people of the world who could never find anybody to agree with them now can find someone anywhere to agree with them, and they all spew the same garbage all over the place, and it's just one political opinion after another, and it's not fun anymore. That's for sure. I am a firm believer that social media is going to be the downfall of us all, because it's changed everything. If you think about it, and I always tell, like, when I'm talking to younger people about broadcasting and about the way the world works, let's go back to the pandemic for a second. Social media has been a huge proponent as to why a lot of people don't trust the news anymore. You know, there's a lot of hatred on one side for Fox News, a lot of hatred on the other side for CNN, and it didn't used to be that way. Those stations, you just literally watched for news. And then somewhere along the line, it became about getting one side's opinion across, or being first, not necessarily being right all the time. And it became click, you know, oh, we got to get so many clicks, we got to get so many likes, we got to get there first. It's kind of tainted the whole news product. And I think, like I started this part of this conversation with, there was a time when I told the kids that live with us, I'm like, if the pandemic would have happened in, let's say, 2002, 2003, or the 90s, if Peter Jennings, the late great Peter Jennings, would have got on TV and said, hey everybody, hunker down, this is going to be bad, we're going to have to ride this out, you know, and do this, do that, whatever, people would have went, damn, Peter Jennings said this is going to be bad. I'm going to get me some canned goods. I'm going to stay in my house. I'm going to do what he says. And now it's not like that. People have their opinion. This is not an excuse to start piling on about the pandemic. I'm just using that as an example, because God knows it doesn't take much for people to need an excuse. sports used to be fun as something new and something as an escape, but now it's become more serious and time-consuming and parent-driven and one political statement after another. And I understand that. I'm still an avid NFL watcher, and judging by the ratings, all the people who said, I'm done with the NFL when they started kneeling at the flag. Ratings doesn't seem to reflect that, though, does it? I think sports has definitely gotten more political, and that's a turnoff for a lot of people. Here's one for me, and I just did this the other day. Streaming services. They're pretty much just like a cable company anymore. And the funny thing is, I cut the cord back in 2016, 15 maybe? I don't know. I cut the cord then, and I started going the streaming route. And now I looked at, because I didn't want to pay as much as I did for cable. And I granted, to be fair, I still don't pay what I did in circa 2012, 13, or 14. But when you start adding, I use DirecTV Stream. So that's my base service that has all my local channels and all that stuff. But then you start adding in, I got to have HBO Max because I want to watch House of the Dragon or whatever. I got to have Peacock because I'm a big fan of the new Bel Air show. I got to have Paramount Plus because there's stuff on Paramount Plus that I watch. Then I've got to have Netflix. Then I've got to have Vudu. And then I've got to have Movies Now. And I've got to have all Disney Plus for the content and all this stuff. So you start adding up all those services. And what used to be a money saver, now you're not really saving that much money when you start looking at your bill. So it's kind of funny. Things that, once upon a time were good until I guess they just weren't anymore. So I'm sure that next thing will come along at some point in time. But until then, I will leave you with that. So hopefully you find something that's good and you can hang on to it for a while and keep it that way. That's what I got. Enjoy the rest of your Monday and stop listening to me rant about, pretty much nothing. So go spend some time with those you like, love, or tolerate because time is limited. So go on, get out of here.